Hey everyone, welcome back to Devs in the Sheds. You've got myself, Aaron, Paul, all on today, and we're all in our. It looks like we're almost in our sheds. Aaron's actually traveling today, but he's found a nice quiet spot on
Found a
the other
corner
side
in
of the
Sydney.
country. Yeah, exactly. But we are joined by Joshua. So Joshua does have a shed, but today's episode's all about IoT within his car. So he is actually going to do this entire episode sitting in his car, which is pretty fantastic. Hopefully, no dropouts. Hopefully, the internet's fine. At his property out in the lawn, but we'll see. So fingers crossed. I guess the first thing I did want to say is there was a couple of announcements. Paul or Aaron, did you want to kind of share what's happened in the AWS side of the equation? Any new releases that you're particularly excited about?
Well, right before the show, we were just saying the one that came out that probably will have maybe not sparked a huge interest in developers, but still is interesting nonetheless. And I think like if you're building a modern business, you are starting to take some concern and you're starting to look at like the impacts of the environment and what impact your organization is having to the environment, to the world as a whole. So there was the release of our carbon footprint tool. And maybe Josh, do you want to give a bit of an intro on that, and like talk about what you see and you feel about that?
Sure. So I have heard from customers directly where they have actually asked us what is the carbon footprint of their workload on AWS. So especially larger enterprises will have sustainability goals as part of their business, as part of their board. Smaller companies want to be environmentally friendly for their own personal reasons as well. So it's not just because of the board, it's people want it. So here we're trying to actually surface the information for people in a way that you can self-serve. Now, I haven't actually dived into this yet because we've only just announced it. Were there any screenshots or anything in our announcement?
I just posted the link to the blog announcement around that tool, but it's really interesting because, if we think about like how we recommend our customers run their workloads at AWS, we typically align ourselves to the well-architected framework, and there's the introduction of the sustainability pillar. So now there's the 6 pillars that have come in, and it's far more about I mean far more in depth about like just how much carbon and how much pollution you're providing out. But it also includes all the way down to things like what sort of like CPU are you using? Are you using the most efficient CPU? Because if you are, then you're starting to save efficiencies by like not wasting like energy by running like over provisioning capacity is a good example of like not being like sustainable and not being efficient. And that's why we see like this constant evolution of like the Amazon Silicon, the Gravitron chips. They're constantly getting better and better at performance. They're better at price, cost performance. So you benefit because yes, you are saving some money, and yes, you are getting more performance. But with more performance and more accurately spec performance or tailored performance to the workload that you're providing, you're actually lowering your carbon footprint as well at the same time. So it's a pretty in-depth subject that it is interesting to see like AWS go ahead and launch a specific carbon footprint tool. And at some point we might get somebody who's a bit more of a specialist in this area to give us a talk and a run through of what that tool looks like.
Yeah, it reminds me of the times like I've got this gaming PC at home, and it's like 1,000 watts, and it's super powerful, right? And it's pretty awesome. But then to the side of that, I've got a MacBook M1, and if I benchmark the two, it's almost the same score, but it's only, I think it's like 60 watt actually is the power consumption on that laptop. So we've seen the same as you mentioned, like across the board in data centers, and I think that's why we've doubled down on Graviton so much, right? You get great performance, and there's energy efficiency, power efficiency, and all of that good stuff as well. Excellent. Was there any other announcements this week? I think there was one more that we
Yeah,
briefly chatted about. Yeah.
I thought it worth mentioning because we're focusing on IoT a little bit at the moment. The AWS IoT Sitewise development library. So it's a IoT application kit which
Mm-hmm.
allows like front end developers to take a lot of their data services, devices and stuff that are connected to IoT Sitewise to quickly build out web applications. It comes with like charts. It comes with like in the library, it gives you the capability of streaming like live time series data, all as part of the development kit, and it works with like common JavaScript frameworks like React.js. You know that I'm a fan of React, so I'm happy with this one.
Nice. There is one other thing that I was going to share, actually, thinking about it. Let me get my screen ready. I've got to find the article. I only just thought, we talked about it for this episode. But this
was it Amplify, Matt?
It should be Amplify, but this time it's not, actually. Let me get my screen up. Here we go. I found the link.
You mean we're doing an episode where we don't mention Amplify?
Well, we can actually run a Amplify web app on it, but it is the Raspberry Pi, so it's turned 10
That's
as
right.
of yesterday. So this is quite fitting for an episode about a Raspberry Pi that's running in a car, right? So 10 years of the Raspberry Pi. I didn't think it'd been that long. I was quite surprised. I've probably had. The Pi 3 is when I started, maybe, and the Pi 0. So I haven't been following the Raspberry Pi for the full 10 years. But I love these devices, and I know that most people that watch our show, and, Paul, Aaron, Josh, we're all big fans of Raspberry Pi as well. So this is a nice announcement. Let us know. Actually, let's ask the same question that the Raspberry Pi Foundation mentioned. What's the favorite thing that you've done with your Raspberry Pi? So for me, it was like allowing everyone on the show to control LEDs through the internet. That's a really cool thing that Paul set up last year.
We did the little electric motor too. That was fun. And I know there were specific
fun.
people in the audience that had fun writing scripts to turn that on and off and drive me crazy all the way through that session. I would say the favorite thing that I've done is the site-to-site VPN. Like it's just, it's been great. And I used a Pi Zero to do that. And like just sat wirelessly. I'm not too concerned about throughput in and out of the cloud, but the $15 device I had site-to-site VPN without having to run any custom equipment or anything like that. I thought that was pretty fun, pretty cool.
I would, absolutely agree with that. The site-to-site VPN is amazing in so much as I've seen a couple of customers do extensions of that, like take that idea and use S3 gateway to from their Raspberry Pi to do, network storage. So they've got like a network storage drive on their network that's going straight to S3 via site-to-site VPN on a Raspberry Pi. I thought that was amazing.
Nice. I like the Pi-hole, which is the DNS filter. So setting that up for the kids on your network and effectively do a parental filter and a malicious content filter by blocking DNSs that don't work. So running very small, very lightweight DNS cache.
That's been. I've used that as well, and it's really good for blocking a lot of ads as well. So it's a really handy setup.
One thing to note: is it really the 10th birthday of the Raspberry Pi or not? Because it launched on February the 29th, 2012, from memory. So do we need to divide things by 4 and it's really a half birthday? Or is it really 10?
I think you're offending everybody, Josh, that has a birthday on a leap year.
Well, what I'm trying to do is make myself feel less old, because I remember when it first launched in the UK and then trying to get hold of it in Australia and waiting to be able to get it into Australia. And then working out that the power supply that I had to charge my phone wasn't actually good enough for the Raspberry Pi, and I needed to get a better power supply. Like, it brings back memories, but I don't want it to be 10 years ago.
Yep. So you weren't using a Lightning connector, obviously, back then. You were using micro USB Android phone. Yep.
It was probably a BlackBerry.
A BlackBerry. Oh wow. Yep.
Oh yeah. I had a BlackBerry too. That was great. Selvican also said RetroPie. I forgot I had a RetroPie for a long time, and I played a lot of old games on that. And not even just old games. You could play like all the Sega games, all the Nintendo, like all of those consoles that used actual CDs and had proper games on them. So, yeah, that was fun too.
We've actually got
Oh,
quite a few.
we've got a couple other ones.
The IoT button I put up before as well. Like, I think a lot of us have had IoT button projects, which is always fun. Home Assistant, that's pretty cool as well.
Yep.
And a calendar app that exists on a Raspberry Pi. So it sounds interesting. Yeah.
My current Raspberry Pi, so I've got a Pi 4. Unfortunately, I'm not in my shed, so I can't show it, but I'd be happy to, is I built a Hexapod on a Raspberry Pi, so it's the brain for my Hexapod.
Nice.
Yeah. The Home Assistant is really popular at the moment. So who's that? Zapatista? Is that how to pronounce your alias? Mentioning that. I personally, in my home, I've got echoes everywhere. If people say Alexa, something somewhere will light up. The lights that turn on and off by voice command or by thing. The heating, air conditioning, you name it. I think the really big issue for me is getting things that have what I call a WAF, but not an AWS WAF. This is the wife acceptance factor. If it doesn't have a good wife acceptance factor, then I need to quickly roll it back. So I've tried various things with the home theatre, and if it makes it hard for her to watch the TV shows that she wants, or it's hard for her to turn on and off the lights, it's failed. And it is therefore not an appropriate Internet of Things device for the home yet. It's still too much of an enthusiast device.
That's why my pilot hole's actually not on, because it wasn't blocking some of the ads that she wanted blocked. Like we hate watching anything that has ads, and and I get annoyed when I go to a website and 90% of the websites just pop-ups. It's like we already had the $1 million website or whatever it was back in the day with like like people could buy
all the pixels
$1
or something. Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't need that on regular sites, thank you very much. I just want a clean, nice interface and not accidentally click on an ad that's only half loaded as I tap something on my phone screen. And Magic Mirror, I've actually Salvikin, you've actually done a ton of Pi projects that sound interesting. I know you've mentioned you haven't done the Magic Mirror, but that's something that I've been interested in. And the other thing, just for Paul, he's moved to his new property. We did promise each other to do an 8-bit computer build.
Oh, that's right.
So not exactly Raspberry Pi related, but I did see that there was a ton of those projects that people kicked off last week, and it got me. Yeah.
That Magic Mirror one, I worked for an agency previously where we didn't call it Magic Mirror, we called it Porthole. But essentially, we had a wall in Sydney and a wall in Melbourne, and whenever you stood in front of it, it would turn the camera on the other side. So you could basically see through the porthole into the Melbourne office from Sydney and into the Sydney office from Melbourne. Yeah, it was very cool. Just using Skype under the, to communicate. But that was cool. Raspberry Pi with a, what's it called? The acrylic, like a almost very dark acrylic, so that when you put the screen behind it, it then shows up. But then when it's off, it just looks like a mirror. So it's a very cool project.
Nice. Excellent. Well, let's just use this as a really bad segue to what is Josh doing in his car exactly. I did hear IoT. I did hear Raspberry Pi, and I did hear Tesla.
My camera fault as well.
Yeah.
So you did, and what I might do is I might switch to my other device here, if I can get it back into the studio, because it locked.
It's dropped out. It's okay.
Yes, I do want to allow access. Now, we'll either get feedback or not. Okay, you can see me. I want you to see everything else. So at the moment, I'm in my car. What you can see here, well, let's switch to the other camera as main. What you can see, I do pin to drive, obviously, because when you're relying on IoT to get in and out of your car and all the rest of it, I really like to have something physical to prevent an intruder from stealing. So electronic stuff can be hacked. I like extra levels of protection. But what I've got in here So in my console here, if I lift up everything and open it up, you can see I've actually got a few things. I've got a USB hub just down here. So a few cables plugged in. And I've got my Raspberry Pi. Now, at the moment, this is a Raspberry Pi 4B. It's been through a few iterations in here, and I've just got it plugged in via the USB-C cable, and I've got an external Wi-Fi.
I was going to say that's a pretty snazzy case as well.
Yep.
Yep.
So this case, nice magnetic hood. It's got a good heatsink in it.
It's an Argon. I've got that for my Pi 4. Yeah, nice. Yep.
Okay, so because I'm keeping it in the glove box, and I don't want a fan in there, and it's often covered in junk. I've removed the junk today. I haven't removed the dirt. It really needs a vacuum. So I need to make sure that it dissipates heat, doesn't overheat. And the Wi-Fi
is that one running an SSD as well?
No. Everything is all on this 64 meg SD card. SD cards are getting so big nowadays. It's just getting good enough that I can just do everything here. So 64 gig, that's hours of video that I can store on here.
So why did you separate the Wi-Fi onto external?
So the Wi-Fi external is so that when I park in my garage, I can get a good enough Wi-Fi signal to connect into my Wi-Fi network.
Oh, so that's just an aerial. That's not an actual device.
No, it's an actual device.
It's a device.
It's a Wi-Fi. Yeah,
it's a USB WAV link thing. I needed to install a kernel driver for it. So you need to download the driver and install it into the kernel.
So you get
is that running Raspbian?
Better reception?
Yeah, so Raspbian, better reception having the big external antenna versus an internal.
Yeah.
The main thing. So for SSH, don't really care about the reception. When it comes to copying large video files, I do. So what I'm actually doing with this Raspberry Pi, what the main purpose of the Raspberry Pi at the moment is saving of dashcam video. So what I originally had when I bought the car is this SSD. Okay, Samsung portable SSD, USB-C connection, and a USB-C to A cable. And I just plugged that into the car, and the car actually saves dashcam footage. So if I go to here, you can actually see the car can actually show the dashcam footage. It's got a rear camera, 2 side cameras, and the front camera, all recording. So by default, if you plug an SSD in, it'll do a 1 hour rotation of video footage. And then if I honk the horn, which I won't do right now because my neighbors will get annoyed, or if I hit this button here on the screen, which, because I'm not driving, it's doing a different mode, it'll save the footage. So really good. You're in an accident, or you're about to be in an accident. You honk the horn, beep, and then a couple of seconds later, I hear saved. Okay, so I know the footage is saved. I know I've got a record of what happened, and good. I also use it on a road trip. So if I went on a road trip on the weekend, which is why my car's so dirty, I saw a nice bit of scenery. I was going through the Goldfields region near Ballarat. There were like old abandoned gold mines with like the forge kind of half standing and stuff. I hit the dash cam button and record it. So I've got some footage of that.
Pretty good example of like good UX there, right? Like that's a good user experience. You want to save something, you toot the horn. It's pretty likely if you toot your horn, there's an incident. Some incident has happened, whether it's an accident or about to have an accident or someone cut you off or something like that.
Exactly. then the last usage of the dash cam is when the car is parked, and when I'm not parked at home. There's a feature called Sentry Mode where it uses machine learning locally, so inference locally, to pick up people on the cameras. And if it detects people walking by the car, it records it as a potential event. So is someone trying to vandalize the car? Is someone trying to steal the car? Has someone bumped the door into the car when they're getting into the neighbouring car in the shopping centre? It will record that.
Have you considered putting in a electrifying cattle prod, so if somebody touches the car?
No, kind of, the legalities of that are probably not the best.
Not to shock people, just as a deterrent.
Yeah.
Wasn't that what Bond had in his BMW back in like Tomorrow Never Dies or something?
I think so.
Yeah, he had like all these automated car defenses, like when the guys came with a big sledgehammer.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody else is just wondering, is that the color of your car? What color is your Tesla, Josh?
So this is the color that my daughter wants the car to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If we go up here, you can see vaguely that my car is actually grey. So
yeah, it's a much more traditional color. I thought that was a pretty out there color if you had that purple.
Midnight silver.
I think one of the reasons I haven't bought a Tesla yet is because I'm waiting for them to make the paint like an LCD screen so that you can change the color of your car from the dash. When they do that, then I'll buy a Tesla.
So I can definitely change the color of the car from the dash. So what I'll do is
on the exterior.
Customize. Here you go. So that's what the screen looks like by default.
But now the exterior of the car should look like that with the LCD
says
paint.
It doesn't. Like we can't tell from here.
I reckon the matte would actually look better than the metallic though.
Yep.
Do you reckon a matte purple, or do you reckon I go for like a bright? Can I do that bright yellow here? Bright yellow. Oh, maybe that needs to be metallic actually. The yellow with chrome trim. My daughter's going to spit the dummy when she gets into the car after school, going, "You changed the color of the car." That's fun. It's not the reason I bought the car. I bought the car because I really like cool gadgets. My previous car was a Prius. It was the first car available in Australia from the mainstream manufacturers that had electric motor in it, though it was a hybrid. So that was a 2004. When Tesla launched, I went, I really need a Tesla. I looked at the price and went, I can't afford a Model S. I saved up money until I could get a Model 3 instead. The more affordable version, it's still expensive in Australia, but it's coming down rapidly in price. Things go. On a road trip, I've obviously got this is the emissions testing mode. It's a virtual whoopee cushion. That defuses any fights when I've got 3 kids in the back seat of the car.
That's cool. Yep.
Very, very fun thing.
So are you connecting anything else from the Tesla to the Pi, or is it just the dash cam?
So I've done some experimenting, and what I've got down here, you can just see a little cable kind of coming out, and it's coming out from under the trim in a spot where there's not normally a cable sticking out. I've hooked in a CAN bus adapter, so it's spliced into the CAN bus of the car. So a normal petrol car is required by law to have a CAN bus. It's part of the ODB2 connection, I should say. It's part of the requirements for emissions testing. As an electric car, it doesn't have the requirement to have the connector. So thanks to enthusiasts on the internet, the wiring diagrams were reverse engineered and people have worked out how to hook it up. So I've done that. I've hooked this up to the Pi, so you can see this cable here. It then needed to get the cable into the Pi. I've then got this isolator switch here as well in the USB.
Mm-hmm.
What is that isolator switch doing?
So this is actually to cut off the power going from the CAN bus into the Pi. I don't want
The Pi.
Yeah, I don't want the CAN bus to power up the Pi.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm drawing power continuously, etc., in an undefined way. So this is actually, it's by Panda. The red. Let's see if you can see it. Red Panda. So the this is some people that do a whole lot of car automation stuff and automation of steering and things like that. So working towards full self-driving of cars other than Teslas.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got some really nifty gadgets that I like tinkering with. So that then hooked into the Pi. I then captured data. So I might switch off this camera now.
Yep.
And I'll put this down if you want to switch off that video. And what I did is I actually captured that data into CSV form. And I tried an experiment. This was 2 summers ago now. So it was, what's that, November 2020? Does that sound right? I'm losing track of the year already. Sign of my age.
Yeah, that's right.
So what I thought was, let's capture all the data. I captured it into CSV files. And I'll see if I can share screen to a window. Oh, okay, so that's my Tesla USB. That's what's capturing the thing. Let's go to CanLog.js. So this was me capturing the log data. So I captured the data. It turned out to be megabytes per minute of data.
Okay.
Then TimeStream had just launched, Amazon TimeStream. And so I decided, let's try decoding the data and putting it into TimeStream. So I used a Python library and there was a GitHub repo of someone that had decoded what the messages were for the Model 3 CAN bus.
Mm-hmm.
So I effectively converted them from a very rough CSV form to an extended form where every minute message came out. It turned out to be about 20 times bigger. And then I put those individual metrics into TimeStream. So I wrote a Lambda function which did it, found out I couldn't quite get the scalability I wanted, changed it to a glue job, converting from S3 into TimeStream, and got it running, got about 500 cores running in parallel, and converted a few days worth of data. Now, as you can hear, 500 cores in parallel for only a few days worth of data started to add up really quickly that it wasn't cost effective. So I kind of turned off the project at that point as far as data collection went and just went to see what I could actually do with the data. So I spun up Grafana dashboards and just tried different things with the data. Oh, what did I do with the steering wheel? Oh, look, I turned the steering wheel a lot as I was leaving home. When I was on the highway, I didn't turn it that much. Or, oh, the windows were down here and the amount of electricity used from the batteries went up, and things like that. So it was a fun project, but it wasn't that useful. So it wasn't kind of worth the money to keep it going as a personal project. there wasn't really anything that my wife could do with the project either. She was like, well, why are you even looking at that data?
You're backseat driving from AWS console.
Yeah. But that was kind of that project. But good fun seeing how much data the car actually could spit out. Another thing I tried was more a hardware project. There's a diagnostics connector under the steering wheel area. I don't know whether we'll be able to see it on the phone if I try and look down there. Probably, can we? There's kind of that little, see just back there's that little bit that's a bit lighter. No, that's not it. One of those little holes in there, it's got like a 4-pin connector somewhere down there under there. So I'll take that away because that's not working well. So I spliced up a cable to go in the connector. It's meant to be car Ethernet. So it's meant to be effectively 100 base T Ethernet. So I kind of created the connector, tried to get it going. I couldn't talk to any of the car computers with it. I'm sure that if I was at a Tesla service center and they put it in service mode that I could, but I'm not. But so that was kind of, I wanted to be able to get onto the Ethernet of the car because the car's kind of got computers everywhere and they're real computers. They're not just little IoT things. They're running, one of them's running a Intel x86 thing. It's real stuff. Failed experiment, but it was fun. Got out the soldering iron and all the rest. Didn't burn myself.
So how did you, when you were moving all of that data, was it slow to move it on and off, given that it's wireless? Like sometimes the access on and off those Raspberry Pis is a little slower than you expect. How did you manage to get so much data off? It was making megabytes per minute.
Okay, so what I've got, and I'll go back to my SSH shell, if I can bring it up. Okay, can people see my SSH shell, or is it still in the yard? Okay.
Yes, yep, it's up.
Yep. So what I've actually got is, if I do an ls, you'll see an rclone.conf. So what I do is I actually just rclone it to S3.
So are you using the public S3 API, or are you using site-to-site VPN with your Pi in the car?
I am just using public. Yep. So as soon as my my car joins the local Wi-Fi, I've got a loop that. So I'm using a tool called Tesla USB. So that's a public GitHub repo by a guy called Marconi. So that's the basis of kind of the turning the Pi into a USB drive for thing, and then detecting whether I'm on my local Wi-Fi or not. And when I do, it'll then dismount the USB from the car and start uploading. So I've got it configured for rclone, and then from rclone up to my S3. So if I go in here, you'll see that there'll be recent clips. Okay, they're all today. If I go to the CAN folder, you'll see they're old. And that's what the data from the CAN bus looked like. Nice and readable.
Yeah, no, it looks extremely readable. So did you have to, is there a lookup for all these things and the way you converted it back that those specific codes mean something?
Yeah, so there's a Python library to decode CAN messages, and you load up a database for the conversion.
Okay.
Yeah. So I read in
So
the file.
even this small version was megabytes per minute.
Yeah, so this
Okay.
was megabytes.
Yeah, there must be
per
a
minute.
lot of
Yeah.
events.
And some of the messages are like 1 bit on off. Some of them are like 1 byte. Some of them are multi-byte. But most of them are like 1 bit. So the message ID 6C8 could map to, for example, the left window or left passenger window. Okay, as an example. I don't think it does, but it could. And so it might be the open close status and whether it's functional or has a fault, and a whole lot of things like that. So any diagnostics for any component of the car will show up as a message there, no matter how minute. So it could be the scroll wheel on the steering wheel. It could be where my foot is on the brake. How far down.
Yep. And so did you have something running that says detect when I'm at home? Like when I'm on the home network, go ahead and put that up. Do you have that script available?
Yep. So what I'll show you is, let's stop that screen share and start a new screen.
While you're looking for that, I just thinking that data that you're actually pulling out. So you said you can see how much your foot's down on the accelerator. There's all these, I guess, diagnostics of your state in the car. That would be a really interesting way of building a digital twin. If we were streaming all of that data into, somewhere in the cloud where we can consume it, and then representing your Tesla in a virtual environment, you've got all of your real time. How far is your foot down? Like I'm thinking, virtual racing in your Tesla.
Yep.
So basically, you can represent where you are, in the virtual world from where you are in the physical world, just from all your diagnostic data.
Absolutely. And what I would say is trim the data before you upload it, because you'll only want a few of those messages to even do that. You don't need the software version of all the firmware every 10 seconds. You don't need, whatever other bits of information were in there, and there was a lot.
You probably wouldn't need to send it as a stream as well. You could do it every 30 seconds as an update of just the relevant points that you want to send.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can process it on the Raspberry Pi. From a data perspective, you're sending a lot less data if you're sending the raw CAN messages, because they're very compact. But you don't need all the message IDs. If you can get away with only, say, a dozen message IDs and maybe every 10th one of some of them and things like that, probably a lot more manageable. So what I've got up here is actually a web UI. So this guy, and I'll bring up his GitHub page, Marconi, has done a whole bunch of work, which I very much appreciate. It's a little open source utility that can work with a Pi 0 or a Pi 4. It's got setup instructions and all the rest. And what I've done is I'm using his repo with a few little customizations. So I kind of piggybacked off that and hacked in the uploading of the CAN bus data to have extra directory and a few little things like that. There weren't really stuff that other people would want, so I haven't pushed them up as pull requests or anything. And kind of, I tinker around it. So with his config and things. So what there is it's got an archive loop, and when it can detect a ping to, I think it's 8.8.8.8 that it's set to at the moment. If you're uploading to a NAS, and I did have a NAS at one point that I was uploading to, which kind of looks like, not sure whether you can see that on the camera there.
Yeah, we can see it.
That's a Synology one, is it?
It's a QNAP.
QNAP, okay.
Yep, so this is the NAS that I did have plugged in at home for a while. I was uploading all the footage to there onto a file share. But, if you upload it to there, I can't really look at it online and things like that. So changed it to S3. So what it's doing, it's taking a snapshot of the file system. It does a file system check, and then it calls my rsync. And the rsync is configured by me to my credentials, and then goes up to S3. So I've got this little thing. You can see Scan My Teslas, another tool that I used with the CAN bus when I was hooking it up. That's where I made sure that that my connections actually worked. So that was a tool that uploaded that there.
Are you doing any event-based processing on what you're loading into S3?
That's on my to-do list.
So what are you planning to do?
So there are a number of different people that have written scripts and tools which can take the footage, which comes in a form of 1-minute videos for each of the cameras, and then converts it into a single video with the cameras all laid out nicely and stuff.
Would you want to? So are you like saying stitching all the videos together, or do you mean like streaming them from different because you wouldn't, if you were to, you've already got them all stored, so the storage taken up. If you stitch them all together, it's going to double the amount of storage that you're taking up. Would you not just want to stream them as chunks from the S3 bucket so that you can view them, but you keep them as separately 1-minute video chunks?
You mean kind of
that
like
chunking playlist?
You mean kind
like
of
a
like what
chunking
this
playlist.
viewer here is doing?
Yes, exactly like what that viewer there is doing.
So I won't put someone's number plate on the screen. So this viewer here is by Marconi, part of the Tesla USB project, but I would absolutely do want to be able to do that from the S3 bucket. It's kind of on my to-do list as well. I'm much better with the back-end glue than I am with the front-end UI. So maybe I might team up with you, Aaron, and you can help me with some of the React and that to get it going.
Yeah, sounds fun.
There was just a comment here from V Bastia that said, I'm sure he's referencing what was it called, the CAN data sets. The solution can be used to optimize insurance costs, right?
Yeah.
Based on data points, companies can score the chances of eventuality or something like that, right? And it reminds me, like I used to work in life insurance, right? And we were looking at some of these mechanisms to determine like the risk, the actual risk that people have, and I guess like the more data you have, the more you can determine whether or not that driver is an erratic driver, whether they turn the steering wheel a lot, whether they're flooring it rather than just casually taking off, and I guess on those points you can determine whether or not someone is more or less likely to have an accident based on their the way they drive the vehicle. And secondly, I assume that Tesla do all of this too. I mean, maybe they don't, but look at the abuse factor of the car as well. Like things will wear out if you drive it much more erratically. Like that is for sure. If you're slamming the brakes on all the time, your brake pads are just going to wear out more likely.
Yeah. So Tesla is actually using that data. They're using remote telemetry up to their servers, and they're doing a driver score. So out of 100, they're doing that in the US and Canada at the moment, and they're using that to determine eligibility for their beta for full self-driving. So they only want good drivers to actually test it out. They don't want people getting in accidents unnecessarily.
I don't know. I'd prefer the drivers of the bad score use the self-driving, to be honest.
I think the idea is, though, when it's in beta, that the driver will take over if they see something wrong.
Exactly. It's not fully autonomous.
When it's in full release, then yes, we should be sending it out and dictating that bad drivers use the full automation.
Or you could use that data to help augment your training for Deep Racer, right?
Yeah.
Or you could take your Deep Racer model and put it back onto your Tesla.
there's something you can do right there. Instead of just digital twin, like I was saying, you feed your actual telemetry into Deep Racer and see how it learns on a course.
Yep.
Well, you could also plug in your spider that you're talking to me about the other week, Aaron, and you could have
The hexapod.
like the video.
Yeah.
The hexapod. You could have
So
this
that's
type
actually-
of data. Yeah.
That's actually, I've only got one camera on the hexapod on the front, but after seeing this, what you've done with your Raspberry Pi and streaming it, I'm going to take some of what you've done on the back end and stream the video footage. I was going to use Kinesis data streams, but I love what you've done here with just dropping it into S3 so that you can actually, it still remains chunked. And then you can actually, like this app that you're looking at now, you can look at each of the different cameras all together all at once, stream them in chunks, and then just stitch them together on the fly. I think that's a great idea.
I think I'm testing out my internet connection here by streaming and trying to stream video at the same time. But here it says user interaction honk on the right here. So there's actually a JSON file produced by the car to say I honked the horn. Okay. So why did I honk the horn at the point where there's a little red dot there? And what we'll see is that someone turned out doing a right-hand turn when they couldn't actually see what was coming. So, I drive down here. I don't think it was actually that person. I think it was
I know
someone
exactly
further
where
on.
you're driving as well, and it's really hard to see turning out of these, and this road's always busy.
Was it you, Matt, the one that he was honking at?
Hey, if it's like a red tiny little hatchback, then it's
No.
definitely-
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Matt. I'm pretty sure it was some random person in a four-wheel drive turning out from behind a ute. But that's not going to view properly on our web streaming just because it's I'm using all the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got my video archive. It's good.
What do you think is next? Like, so you've got the video there. You've like looked at that CAN data. You've understood, that, running with the windows down. I guess that's more what's it called, aerodynamic. So that's what uses less battery power. What's next? What are you going to do with some of this data or some of this video?
At the moment, I'm using a cloud provided service to capture like my charging stats. So how often am I charging the car? How much money am I spending on it? Is it from solar or is it from non-solar or from a third-party charger, etc.? I want to have all of that myself, not relying on a third party to host the data for me, etc. So I'd love to do that.
Yep.
Do nice dashboards, put frequency of how often I do trips from home versus, trips to work versus trips to wherever, school drop off, how many kilometers am I spending on each type of thing, that sort of analytics.
Does it tell you how much it's costing you to drive the car, given the cost of electricity and how much it takes to charge it up? Or is that something you would have to compute?
I'd have to compute. So what I know is that I've got solar panels, I've got batteries on my solar, I've got things set up to charge via automation, so through the Tesla APIs to say, hey, kick off the charging when I'm net positive on solar. Okay.
Yeah.
So start charging in the middle of the day. I then manually stop the charging. I'm not automatically doing that. Getting all of that into nice dashboards and getting it all user friendly. I don't think I've got the wife acceptance factor and that going on that side of things yet.
With understanding where you want to go, I'd be keen to understand, and maybe for people who are looking to copy what you've done, what was the hardest thing that you found, in actually setting it all up?
security, I would say. So as an example, at the moment, I'm using an access key for the R-Clone. Okay. It doesn't make me comfortable having an access key there for the R-Clone unless I can rotate it often. If someone steals the Raspberry Pi, they've got access to my S3 bucket. Now, I do have the permissions for that access key such that they can only write to the bucket, they can't even view the bucket. It's something that's out there. When I have tried a few other things as far as hosting projects myself, I get the project and I go, oh, that project's designed to run on a local network. It's not designed to run in the cloud on public internet. And so suddenly you're going, well, what authentication am I going to put in front of this? Okay, I don't want where I drive and how I drive public information. I want it password protected and all the rest.
Encryption.
I'm not so worried about encryption for this data. I'm more worried about it being public.
Accessibility, yeah.
Accessibility.
So would you consider developing a simple, or even using, say, like Cognito to develop a token authentication?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then you can rotate your tokens and make access whenever you log in.
So I started last summer as part of one of my projects doing that, and I got Cognito going, authenticating on a load balancer back to a container that was running an app, doing Tesla telemetry. The bit that then got me was the access from the car. Okay, so your car to the web app is then not via Cognito. Cognito is for user authentication, not for your device. So then I started going down the rabbit hole of, well, how do I want to authenticate my car's Raspberry Pi to the application? And I'm back to, well, what credentials should I use?
What about API gateway with a Lambda authorizer, and then you can set up the authorization through the Lambda?
Yep. And that's exactly the rabbit hole that I started going down. Do I do that, or do I do IoT Core and have
good point.
And my project just blew out as I went down more and more bits, and I never got it finished. Summer holidays finished with only 2 weeks. I had to go down to the beach every day and things like that. So,
isn't that the same old story? Everything that starts as a POC, that's easy. We can do that. You get it up and running, and you're like, yeah, but anyone can have access to anything. Yeah. So I think we run into that all the time when we go through, building solutions. It's like, yeah, it's pretty easy to knock something up really quick that demonstrates how it works, but to make it secure, reliable, governed. Ready. Yeah, it is not production ready. Yeah, that's it. Yep. It is not production ready.
Especially when I'm hooking up to APIs that can actually remotely start my car and remotely drive my car. So I can make the car drive forward or backwards from the API in limited amounts. So not your full self-driving around the block, but I can reverse it out of the driveway. Okay. Do I want someone to be able to do that remotely without authentication? No. I can see Verbitista is saying suggestion is for IoT Core.
Yep.
I really should do IoT Core, and then I wouldn't need my credentials in the R-Clone as well.
Yep.
I'd probably turn on SNS notifications for when the synchronizer is finished if I did that as well, maybe.
I would. Do you have GPS telemetry?
I do, yes. So the Tesla API has GPS telemetry, so it's Tesla's web API.
You could have a lot of fun with this, because now if you're running through IoT Core, separating out your latitude and longitude using Amazon Location Service, setting up some boundaries, so you've got your geofences, then you can start sending your SNS notifications based on, when you're getting within a radius to home, get the automated garage door to open by itself. There's a lot you could do.
Turn on the air conditioning on a hot day when I'm within 5 minutes of home. Don't have it on all day. absolutely. Yeah, so it's on the web API. It's on the CAN bus even, the GPS coordinates.
So you've got the data there already.
Yeah, so the
that
data
reminds me of this.
yeah.
Yeah, this guy I know, Tim, he built something similar to what you're talking about, Aaron, that his wife would constantly message him saying, when are you getting home? And he would forget to, if you're staying at work a little bit later, you're stuck with a meeting or there was a train delay or something like that, used his GPS coordinates plus some other things such as like working out whether there was a delay in the train lines and basically said, Tim will be home within 15 minutes based on where he is. And
awesome.
and look, that the wife acceptance factor, like there's
Big
a lot
on
of
that one.
times where, there's a lot of times where I say, yeah, I'll message you when I leave, and you just forget. Like you get carried away, you get in the car, you're driving.
Yep.
Whereas something like that could be, kind of handy.
You
You just say, let
get
you know
the call,
that Josh is on his way. He's 40 minutes away.
You get the call from the wife at 9 p.m. going, have you left the office yet? Oh, crap.
The TV's not working. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, I used to have a Mac Mini running at the TV. That the wife acceptance factor of that was probably about 6 or 7 out of 10 because it used to overheat, it used to crash. The software I ran on it would auto update and then not work properly. I've now moved to a Fire TV stick, and that's running much better.
Yep.
It's got a nice simple remote. It just works.
Integrates with Alexa.
Integrates with Alexa. My wife doesn't like the voice commands.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. It's talking to a computer. It's not a human. It's like a comfort factor.
My kids think that I'm magic because I say, because if you've got the button on the controller, you just press the button and say, play whatever movie name, and it comes up by itself. And my kids are like, wow, you're magic. And then they say, play something else. It's like, oh, it doesn't do it. I'm like, yeah, it only listens to daddy's voice.
So from a usability perspective, the Fire TV Stick's user interface just works. Everything is clear on how to find it. It's either on ABC iView because we're watching the news on the live streaming, or it's on Prime, or it's on Netflix. And it's all good. When I did it all myself, I had a mishmash of open source software doing things, and you had to go out of one and go into the other to do one thing or the other. And it was the web browser for Netflix and things like that.
So you might consider creating a channel to stream your car dash cam to the TV so that your wife can just flick on the stream to see where the car is at, and then she'll know whether you're on the way home or
or whether you're stopping for a snack on the way home.
That's
it. Yeah, I'll probably leave that one be. I can't imagine what the 5G costs would be if I hooked the Raspberry Pi up to the mobile network and do the uploads.
Yeah, in time, it's getting cheaper and cheaper. So in time, that will become like much more affordable. And I mean, you've got a Tesla. Like I have Starlink. Surely they're going to be able to have like mobile Starlink solutions. Surely that's something that's going to come out in time. And we'll see.
I hope so. I'm just waiting for the time where I can go on a road trip on the weekend and sit back and relax while the car drives there.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's already like my fatigue is 10 times less than what it used to be because I put it on auto drive. So autopilot, I should say. And it keeps to the lane and it'll change lanes to overtake, but it won't do anything beyond that. Okay, so it'll stick to the speed limit and it'll overtake cars. I want it to be able to do everything, including, turn off the road onto back streets and get me all the way there. But,
So you just need to allow the Raspberry Pi to send commands to the dash or to the system so that we can hack it from the back end, and I can control your car. Send you down the wrong lane. Whoa, no, back in.
We can definitely use Deep Racer to get you to your destination faster.
Absolutely.
when it comes to safety features, I'll rely on Tesla to actually do it all safely for me. I'm not going to hack that myself. I don't want to be responsible for an accident.
You'd probably be in breach of their terms anyway if you were to try and send commands.
I would imagine.
Surely they wouldn't allow it. Yeah,
I would imagine so. They've got a public API, which is the extent of the commands that you're allowed to give it.
Yeah.
And I'll stick to that.
which would be like environmental control on the inside and stuff like that. Nothing to do with the the driving of the car.
No, I can reverse it backwards in the driveway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, or from a car spot in a car park.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, when you can't get in because someone's parked you in. But yeah,
So
it's
do
a
it on
great
your
on my phone.
do it on your phone. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So I think we're at time, are we?
Yeah, we're pretty much at time. Was there anything else you specifically wanted to show us, Josh?
Was there? You've seen emissions testing mode. I think that's probably it. I'm not gonna get the car to drive itself on camera live. So not today. We can do that another day, maybe.
Well,
This has been
it's
awesome.
pretty awesome to see what you've done
Yeah.
so far. We'll have to get you on in another 6 months or so and see whether the project's progressed a little bit more out of proof of concept mode.
Yeah.
And I noticed some people noticed my T-shirt. It's not true that I've got a T-shirt for every occasion. Okay, I've got more than one T-shirt for every occasion. So I had to pick a pie-themed one. Hence,
I ate all the pie.
Yeah, and it was
Yes.
delicious.
Well, I mean, quickly explain the I ate all the pie first, Aaron, since you said it.
So the square root of -1 is an imaginary number. Imaginary number is I. The 2 to the power of 3 is 8. So I ate all of and pie.
There you go.
So I ate all the pie.
The internet sells these
Sorry,
things. To me.
bad math jokes.
I think it's funny. It's just like, there are like 1-0 type many people in the world, those who know binary
Yeah.
and those who don't. And that
There's
depends whether
10
it's little end in or big end in.
There's 10 types of people in the world. Those that
Aaron did use
understand
this
binary
on
and
me
those that
already
don't.
this morning, by the way. Like this
Yeah,
is
sorry,
this is
too
getting
many bad
recycled.
math jokes.
I said that one the other day, and my account team wasn't quite sure what I was talking about.
Yeah,
So some
binary
get
people, binary.
it. Yeah.
Monkey saying I ate some pie and it was delicious. So as a summation, I guess it would need the 0 to infinity for it to be all the pie.
Some of all, yeah, good point.
Yep. I've been saying all the pie because it's more likely that if I see the pie, I'll eat all of it. But yeah, I agree. It is.
So when I say the sum, like the sum of is all, so that's why I would say all the pie. But good point. Yeah, I ate some pie, if to be pedantic or
It's a
correct.
shame we didn't have a prize to give away this week from Monkey.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Maybe, yeah. I've got some prizes up there that we can dish out at random anyway. But I think we're on time for this week.
Yeah.
We did a mini video like 2 days ago on micro front ends that we put in our YouTube. I don't know if you want to grab the link in the background for that, Paul.
I'll grab that really quickly.
Yeah, but if you're keen to watch a sneak peek at what we're doing next week, we did do a mini 15-minute video on YouTube on it. But next week we're going to spend a full hour. Aaron's put together a really cool solution on microservices. So looking forward to catching everyone same time. Yeah. Looking forward to catching everyone at the same time next week. Hope everyone has a good morning, afternoon, or evening, or whatever it is in your time zone. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care all.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.